Mid lane gets ganked a ton. We are the lane that's right in the middle of the map, so it's really easy for jungles to kind of gank us while they're crossing sides, or we're always like really close to like the raptors and whatnot. So we get ganked a lot, and we get ganked from everybody. We get ganked from the jungle, the top lane, the support. So it's really important that as a mid laner, we understand a lot about our jungler and the enemy jungler and when they can gank and where to put our vision. That's what we're talking about today. We're talking about 3 main key points. The first one is different types of junglers and how they can gank. The second one is the most common timings for ganks to come out, so how you have to respect that, how you have to go about that. And the third one, where to put good vision and when. So hopping into the first point here, we're talking about we want to understand how the junglers work before the game starts. So as a mid laner, it's really important we ask, who is the enemy jungle, like who are they playing, and how does that jungle want to progress the game state? How do they want to win? What's their win condition? So I kind of view it as a spectrum of champions of how early they want to gank and how well they scale and how much they want to prioritize their camps. So on the heavy ganking side, you have people like Shaco and Nunu and Twitch Jungle, Xin Zhao, Jarvan 4. These junglers are junglers that really need to progress the game by winning and dominating early game and by ganking early game, right? Just snowballing early. So it's very likely you will see them a lot. So if you're playing against an early game jungler, you're going to have to know going into that game, you're going to have to respect them more just because of the champion they pick. It is what it is. And on the opposite side of that spectrum, you have the perma farmers, you have the Karthuses, the Shyvanas. Sometimes champions like Master Yi can kind of behave this way. And then you have everything in between. And knowing kind of what jungle you are playing against and what jungle you're playing with will kind of get you ready to deal with the amount of ganks you're going to see. For example, if you have a Shyvana on your team and you're playing against a Jarvan, you're going to get ganked a lot more than you see ganks from your Shyvana, and you're going to have to be ready to deal with that. That's something that is going to just reduce the amount of pressure you can put down early game, and that's okay. So it's normal to not, especially if we're new to the game or new to mid lane, to not know how jungles work completely. But every time you load into a game as a mid laner, you want to ask for both junglers, how early game are they? How much are they going to prioritize their camps? And then who has what jungler, right? So maybe you have the early game jungler, maybe you have the Jarvan, and the enemy has the Shyvana. And now you have to be extra aggressive early to use that pressure, set up tower dives, invade with the Jarvan, that kind of thing. It's going to change our game plan fundamentally as a mid laner. The second jungle tracking, like anti-gank fundamental for mid lanes, is basic jungle timings. Specifically, if you don't know any other timing in the entire game, there is one that every mid laner should know, and it's the 2:30 timer. The 2:30 timer in game. Now, what this timer is, it's roughly when enemy junglers can finish 3 camps and gank. Why is this one so important? Well, because each quadrant has 3 camps, right? So if they're gonna full clear from bottom to top side, at around 2:30, they're done with their bottom side camps. And they're going to come, like they're crossing over to the other side. So they can gank mid lane for free. So if you're in a vulnerable spot, you are going to get ganked at 2:30. So you have to get some vision down by 2:30. This happens to be right after the second wave. You can see in this clip, I'm crashing the second wave and I'm going out to get some vision right at that right before that 2:30 mark. This timer is the most important timer for every mid laner to know by far. Make sure you have vision down by now. And if you can't get vision, make sure you're respecting the potential of getting ganked. Okay, the third most important fundamental to not dying to ganks mid lane is, of course, where to put your wards. Now, this fundamental actually builds on top of the last fundamental we were talking about, what jungler are we playing against. So if we're playing against a super aggressive jungler, we got to make sure that we ward early and we ward often. So if we don't have vision in good spots, we're going to have to be really careful about stepping up. So if we're playing against an early game jungler, we have to make sure we have good vision. What does good vision look like? Well, here we're on the blue side, on the bottom side here. I'm going to show you my favorite ward spots. If I want to ward on the top side, my absolute favorite spot is in between this little pillar here and this little wall here. So somewhere in between, you know, I just like to put it right there. And what this does is it shows down in this area where you can see Scuttle Crab, you can see people coming from behind you, but it also shows up into this raptor camp, it shows up into this bush. You see a lot of information from this ward. This is probably one of the safest wards and one of my most common wards I'll put down when I'm trying to be aggressive. And now it lets you stand in these pockets comfortably. You know, you can be aggressive, you know, poke the enemy, and you're good to go. So that's one of my favorite wards. If you're playing against a super aggressive jungler or a jungle with invisibility, maybe it's a Shaco, maybe it's an Evelyn, maybe it's a Nunu, maybe it's a Hecarim. These are kind of junglers that are going to gank you, and they can gank you from really far away. You need to get your vision deeper. You need to get your vision deeper. So that means, generally, it means warding camps. So if I'm playing against a Hecarim or an Evelyn, I'm going to ward here, and I'm going to ward the raptor camp so that I can tell what side of the jungle they're on. Because if I ward this, they're going to be so fast, even by the time you see them, they're in your lane anyways. Or for Evelyn or Shaco, they can just go through this without you seeing them. So if I have to ward deeper, I'll ward up into the raptor camp. You know, maybe sometimes I get a ward on red. And if we're talking about pinks, one of my favorite pinks from this bottom side, if I can find a way to place it, is this pink right here. Now this pink is amazing because it shows you if the jungler is going up towards their Krugs or if they're coming down from their Krugs down to the other side. And it's very hard to see, so most people won't take this pink out. The most important thing about this pink is that you place it on the edge of the bush to see as far down into the red camp as possible. If you put it too far back here, you actually don't end up seeing anything in this red camp. So you actually don't end up getting any information. So that's an example of a really aggressive pink and really aggressive wards. If you want more defensive wards, it's very similar, but you move them back. One ward that I see pretty common is putting this ward, like a normal ward, in this bush. And I absolutely hate this ward. This doesn't really give you anything. It's much better. The issue with this ward, and here, let's place some wards so we get rid of this one, is it doesn't actually see right here. So the enemy jungler can walk down this way into the river and come behind you without you ever seeing them. They can also walk down and grab crab without you seeing them. They can invade your jungle without you seeing it. So this ward is awful. All you have to do to fix it, and again, let's put some wards down to move it. All you have to do to fix it is put it out a little bit, right? So let's say you're not as far up. You can't go up here. You can't go up here. You can put it right there. It's just a little bit out of the bush. But what it does now is now the enemy jungle can't sneak past this vision. They can't sneak past it. So I absolutely hate when people ward in the bush. Make sure you ward outside of it. Now let's talk about the other side. The principles are very similar, except it's harder to get on jungle camps and it's just generally a little bit harder. So my favorite ward on this side is just right outside the bush, right like that, right? Putting it down here in between this wall and this wall doesn't make a ton of sense because you just reduce the amount of vision over here where the enemy jungle is likely to show or enemy support is likely to show. However, it's fine, right? But generally, I'll just put my ward somewhere in this area. Now, for pinks, we already talked about this pink as a good aggressive one. Again, this side close to the buff. If you want more defensive pinks, you actually can ward this bush. Now, what pinking this bush does is it gives your jungle or your support or your top or whoever's going to be ganking you vision to know that they can sit in this bush for a long time. So this ward actually makes sense as a denial ward, as a set up my jungle kind of ward to help gank. Otherwise, there are a lot of other consistent good pink spots. Typically like Pixel Bush is a good pink spot, right? Generally on Pixel Bush, you want to put it on the corner of the bush once again, so the jungles can't sneak here. But this is a good pink. If you're playing for top side and your jungle wants Herald, like this helps set that up quite a bit. Same thing on the bottom side. This pink sets up the bottom side pretty well. So again, keep in mind the fundamentals. If you're playing against a more aggressive jungler, you need deeper vision to be safer. If you're playing against a less aggressive jungler, you don't need vision as much, and you could put it a little bit less aggressive. It doesn't have to be as deep. It doesn't have to be on enemy jungle camps. For pinks, keep them in spots where they're going to stay up for a while and keep them on the side where you're playing strong. Generally, I mean, pinks in lane phase, especially in like low elo and in solo queue, aren't that necessary. So don't feel like you have to buy them. A lot of times people will buy pinks and they won't know where to put them and then they'll just waste the money, right? A pink is 75 gold to buy. It's 30 gold if you kill it, plus a little bit of XP. It's 105 gold. That's worth more than a wave in lane phase. So don't buy pinks too much and don't ward these lane bushes. Other than that, keep the fundamentals in mind. This is my favorite ward right here. Push him deeper if you need to. On this side, this is my favorite ward. I hope this video was helpful in stopping you guys from dying from ganks and helping us with our jungle tracking. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a blessed day. Peace.